Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Tyler Perry's Netflix film, Mea Culpa. Culpa? Culpa? So let me start off by saying I have mixed feelings about Tyler Perry's films. What I will say, a positive, is that he does give us tons of variety as far as campy, comedy, mystery, romance, drama, whatever you can think of, whatever genre you can think of, he has dabbled in it in some form or fashion. So I think that that's really good and really impressive as an artist to be able to expand on different genres like that. However, I feel like with each Tyler Perry movie, there is something conceptual that pisses me off, to the point where it comes down honestly to a matter of opinion. It comes down to a matter of how you view life in general. But for me, some of the concepts that are in some of his movies are very problematic, and this one did not fall short. Prior to watching it, I had no real idea of what it was going to be about. I didn't really see much of the trailer. I just knew Kelly Rowland was going to be in it and she was going to be a lawyer. So, of course, I'm watching it. Kelly Rowland, I was invested, sure. However, that being said, watching it, I knew that it was going to be a Tyler Perry movie that was going to piss me off within the first 10 minutes. That's all that it really took. And I could tell by the dialogue and the way that things were progressing that it was not trying to be, but it was going to be the type of movies that was like, extra steamy, sexual, sex and whatnot. And so, although I am lenient on those types of movies, because they all kind of have the same type of vibe as far as the dialect goes, as far as the vibe, and I'll explain a little bit more about that as I get into the plot. So you have Kelly Rowland's character, Mia, who is a defense attorney, and she's having marital problems. The first few minutes of the movie, she is in a marriage counsel. She's speaking with a marriage counselor with her husband, and they've clearly been having ongoing issues within their marriage that they're trying to work out. And a lot of that issue, I feel, there was a number of things wrong with their relationship. So one, his mom did not fuck with her. So at all. So for example, Cal is the husband's name. They go to the mom's birthday party, and what makes it even worse, the mom is literally sick and has to go to chemo. So everybody is walking on eggshells as far as the attitude that she gives and the blatant disrespect that she gives Kelly Rowland's character, Mia. So you have this dinner party and Mia, you can kind of tell, is like the black sheep of the family with his, what seems like his whole family. So Cal's mom literally invites another girl to the dinner, and it's like a family friend, and she's making jabs. So the blatant shade that Cal's mom was giving Mia was enough to send me over the edge, especially because Cal never spoke up on it and never said anything to her. Watching it, you're like, okay, his mom's going through chemo, but I'm like, just because she's sick does not make her less of an asshole. This is gonna bother me. And that doesn't really bother me in terms of the movie and the plot itself. Is just as a human, as a person, it was just very frustrating to see. So the only person that Mia vibes with and that she has a good relationship with within the family is her sister-in-law. And her sister-in-law isn't even really related to the family, if that makes any sense. They're not blood related. So Charlize is married to Cal's brother, Ray. And Ray, coincidentally, is also an attorney. He's a district attorney and a prosecutor. Ray, being a district attorney and a prosecutor, does come into play in a big way in this movie because essentially Mia has to defend an artist accused of murdering his girlfriend. The artist's name is Zaire. And this is a huge conflict of interest because her brother-in-law, Ray, is acting as the prosecutor in the case. So you see where the issue is there. And Mia kind of doesn't have much of a choice because Cal is currently unemployed, but his family is under the impression that he is working and that she is being spoiled by him and is living a really good life because Cal and Ray do come up from a family of money. You got a lawyer, and not only that, but Cal is also in rehab. So there's just a lot of moving parts here that's going on, a lot of context that his family isn't seeing, which also fuels their hatred for Mia. So while Mia is taking this case, her in-laws are under the impression that she has no reason to take the case, but really, bills need to be paid, things need to get taken care of, and she's the breadwinner at this time between her and Cal. So at one point, Mia confides in Charlize that she's going to be taking the case, and then Charlize, in turn, tells Ray and the mother that she's taking the case, which is a big conflict of interest. And so they basically sit her down and they tell her, you're not doing it. Like, you're not going to do this. Which she ends up doing it. There was like some sort of a loophole, because they spoke to the judge. Mia and Ray end up speaking to the judge because obviously you have like family on the same case. And so he realizes it's not going to be an issue for her to defend him because they're already beefing as a family, so there's not going to be any bias, there's not going to be any foul play, basically. So taking the case, Mia meets Zaire, and they're talking about the situation, they're talking about the case, but she feels she needs more help trying to figure out if he's innocent or not, for one, and the best possible way that she can help him. So she hires a private investigator / friend, Jimmy. Jimmy and Mia meet up with Zaire, and they're talking about previous relationships. And I mentioned this scene because y'all. So they're talking about previous relationships that he's had, and I think it was to kind of build the case that he, one, wasn't violent enough to murder his girlfriend, which the case was all bullshit from the top, because they didn't have a body, they didn't have like much evidence other than a video of Zaire's girlfriend, Heidi, saying, if something happens to me, he killed me. That's it, which is like, wow, real easy to pin somebody for murder then. So yeah, so then the backstory with that is that he met Heidi at a resort and they ended up hooking up and then becoming boyfriend, girlfriend. There's more details, I'm sure, but just roll with me here. So then you have Mia and Jimmy talking to Zaire about his previous relationships. And so it's not looking good. So far, one girlfriend or one ex has responded to the question like, hey, what kind of boyfriend is he? She's like, he's sexually violent. And the details were horrendous. The details were horrendous. And of course, Zaire is like, oh, like she was into that freaky deaky shit. I was not into it and it made me uncomfortable. That's why I didn't like her. That's why I loved my new girlfriend, because she was just normal. She wasn't into anything weird sexually. And so every time they bring up a past relationship and they say something disparaging about him, immediately Zaire is like, oh, they're jealous and bitter because I broke up with them, which is crazy to say. I mean, which it's not out of the question that could happen. There are people that, are bitter at the end of relationships and stuff, but like every single one, not a single one of them could say something good about you. Like, be serious. So one of his past lovers happens to be an art gallery owner by the name of Renee. And so he explains their situation as basically at the start of his art career, before he became a successful artist, he hooked up with this art dealer, art gallery owner, Renee. She's an older woman. They hook up, and after his career takes off, he decides that he no longer wants to be with her, which sounds in itself problematic. But the way that he explains it is that she was trying to control him, and he didn't like that, so then he wanted to leave, conveniently after his career had skyrocketed. I'm just saying. I believe Renee initially didn't make a statement, or she kind of refused to make a statement, and either that or she did a negative statement. I can't remember what it was, but I just remember Zaire, pleading his case, saying that she was, essentially bitter about their breakup. So after this conversation with Zaire, Mia and Jimmy get together and they're kind of feeling like unsure. They're like, okay, he seems very arrogant, but did he do it? Like, they're kind of up in the air as far as whether or not he did it. They feel like there is something wrong with him or something off with him, but they just can't really pinpoint what it is. So I say this because you'll see. It'll all add up in just a moment. at one point, Mia is at Zaire's loft, and basically she somehow manages to confide in him about her failing marriage. And so this part is very specific, so we got to talk about it. So basically he sits her down and is like, okay, well, paint with me, what color are you feeling? And she's like, oh, I'm feeling the color blue when I think about my marriage or when I think about my husband. And so he has her paint waves on a canvas. And so they're painting or whatever. That's what that is. The very next time that they choose to meet up, she's like, hey, like, let's meet in the office. And I don't know. I think it was very clear that she was like feeling some type of way as far as being attracted to him, which is crazy. And this is why I think I low key may be asexual or something, because there's just certain scenarios that I just can't jive with. And it's like, no, I don't think I'm asexual. I think it's just certain unrealistic scenarios when it comes to like erotic novels and erotic movies that it's hard for me to get into it, because I'm like, really, this is the dialogue, really, this is what's going on, and it becomes difficult for me to embrace it for what it is. Like, I'll enjoy it for entertainment purposes, but it's hard for me to really relate to the characters when they're in that position. Now, granted, Mia at this point is in a failing marriage, so there's no telling what she sees in Zaire that she feels is comforting or feels as attractive. And don't get me wrong, the man who plays Zaire, yeah, he's very handsome, very attractive man. But even then, it's like you don't, like, I don't know. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me continue. So he's basically like, no, we're gonna meet at my loft. Like, I'd rather meet at the loft. And so they end up meeting at his loft. And this conversation is so ridiculous, y'all. So he's basically like, hey, like, I'm gonna tell you that I'm really attracted to you. Man is on trial for murder. He's like up for the death penalty. And he's talking about, I'm attracted to you. I would be like, I'm attracted to these facts, okay? Let's solve this mystery so I can not be on death row. But no, and this is what frustrates me about the movie, and this is what frustrates me um, about the writing overall. It just kind of pissed me off. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So basically, Zaire is alluding to not wanting Mia as his lawyer, even though she comes highly recommended and is the best at what she does. He basically is like, you won't admit that you're attracted to me, so I don't want you as my lawyer anymore. How can I trust you to be my lawyer if you're gonna lie to me and say that you're not attracted to me? Because he basically presses her and is like, I want you to admit it. Admit that you're attracted to me, and then we can go on about the case or whatever. And she's, of course, being professional and is like, no. And what boggles my mind is that his response to her saying like, hey, I'm not attracted to you, and him being so adamant on, you're lying to me. It's either you're attracted to me and you're lying to me, or you're attracted to me and you're lying to me, which is crazy. It's like this whole toxic, it was just toxic. It just wasn't good, which is why I have such a problem with the erotic genre overall. I feel like rarely, or not rarely, I feel like a lot of a lot of erotic novels and a lot of erotic films have some sort of underlying problematic shit going on. Because what the fuck do you mean? Like, what? How does the two correlate? And so he quite literally would throw a fit. It's a mild fit. I mean, he's not throwing a whole tantrum per se, but he does get visibly upset and storms out of the loft and tells her, quote, pack your shit, I gotta close up. Like, pack your shit and leave, is what he tells her. And so she is basically telling him that he can't go anywhere because he doesn't need to be out in the public, and people don't need to see him um having a good time. They need to see him bogged down, sad, which honestly he should be. Like, your girlfriend is supposedly murdered, and now you're hitting on your attorney who's trying to defend you. And I understand that he had resentment towards his girlfriend because, there's definitely a video of her saying, like, hey, if something happens to me, he did it. Zaire did it. But I digress. So they're leaving his loft, and he's like still on her as far as, I know you want me, I know you're attracted to me, which would, even if I was attracted to somebody and they did that, I would no longer be attracted to them, because that is like unbelievably arrogant, because in no possible way, not once has he said, oh, you know what, I could be wrong about this theory about you being attracted to me, let's move on about the case and let's move forward on this. And even so, it's like, why is the main focus not the case right now? Why is there even there? If I was on trial for murder, and not only that, but I was on trial for the death penalty, girl, I'm gonna be very adamant on, we need to focus, we need to figure this out, we need to get this shit together. Like right now, he doesn't have any viable witnesses that are able to speak on his behalf to say that he's an amazing person or he's a really nice dude. So it's just a mess. So they're going down the elevator in the loft. And like I said, she's telling him like, hey, you can't go out anywhere. He's like, I'm not going out anywhere. And so they end up in the parking garage. And oh, at one point he's like, I can tell that you're attracted to me. Like, you can't convince me. Your breathing changes around me. And I'm like, crazy. And as somebody who has asthma, I would be like, it's not you, honey. It's the dander. It's the pet dander. It's the pollen. But I digress. So they're in the parking garage, and he walks off to like some side shit that's in the parking garage. Which, does anybody have an apartment like that that's like literally attached to a sex club? Because that's exactly what the fuck happened. So Zaire walks into this sex club, and Mia follows him for whatever reason. And so it is quite literally people in there dancing, fucking, having a swell time. So somebody comes up to her and is like, hey, let's fuck. And she's like, okay, I gotta go home. So she goes home to her husband, and Cal is in there playing video games, which kind of just like, as somebody that's unemployed, you're in there playing video games. Like, that's kind of crazy. And it's not like she was like being the breadwinner, where they were like completely taken care of and he had room for that shit. But literally, they were struggling paying their bills. He had to sell a piano to get his mom something for her birthday. Like, kind of crazy. So then, so she's already annoyed. She sees that he's online playing a video game with the girl that was at the dinner that his mom brought, which, like I said, is a family friend, but like also, ooh, boundaries. Which, and would it be a problem if he was online playing with the girl? But it's just the fact that his mom disrespected Mia in front of the girl, about the girl, regarding the girl, that kind of made it irritating as fuck for me. So then you have Mia, who gets a call from, I want to say it's like his publicist, Zaire's publicist. It's somebody that Zaire knows. And forgive me, usually when I do these videos, I watch the movie like 10 times over and am very thorough in like the characters and the plot and stuff. This is just a twice over that you're getting right here. So just bear with me. That's honestly why we discuss old movies here, because, I've watched them multiple times before. I've watched them multiple times before talking about them. So, anyways, so she's on the phone, and his person, Zaire's representative, is basically telling her like he's really scared. He really, really needs you. Like, please, like, just go talk to him. He needs you. Y'all need to figure this out. And so she goes to talk to this man. I want to say it was the following day, either that or the same night. I can't really recall. She goes to Zahir's place, and there he is, shirt off. And she's basically saying like, hey, like, I know that you're scared or whatever, like, and I just kind of want to get, I kind of want to figure this out. And he's like, like, even though you won't admit that you're attracted to me, like, we need to figure this out, and like pushes up on her. And something about that is like, I would be like, you definitely murdered your fucking girlfriend. Because one, for him to be like upset for her not admitting something that he believes is true, even though she's telling him, like, fuck all else. Like, forget that, I don't care if all the signs are there. If she's telling you no, motherfucker, it's a no. Like, we're grazing the line on something real, real weird here that I just didn't find necessarily attractive. But what I'm saying is, for the movie, I feel like this was supposed to be attractive, or this was supposed to be one of those things where it's like, oh, like, I think it was supposed to be attractive. I say that because, well, let me tell you. So, after leaving his place, which before she even leaves his place, a random ass naked girl just walks by and she's like, "Oh, hey." And he's like, "Oh, no, she's not staying." And so she is trying to leave, and or Mia's trying to leave. Like, she's in the fucking loft elevator, and she's like waiting for him to send her down, but instead he is receiving fellatio from this girl and it's kind of prolonging this, and then eventually lets her down. So then Mia gets a call from Jimmy, and he's like, "Hey, like, I'm so sorry." And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Oh, like, you don't know?" And she was like, "I don't know what." And he was like, "It's about Cal." And she's like, "What's going on?" He sent her a picture of Cal and old girl that he was playing games with, the one that his mom was like, "Oh, talk to me." You, or no, not talk to me. His mom was like, "Oh, I'd rather that be my daughter-in-law, like, instead of you." He. And so they're walking into a hotel. He's like, "Yeah, they're staying at this," or, "I seen them go into a suite. They've been there for hours, and it was room this, that, and the third." So after hearing this, she goes back. She goes back into the loft, and she goes back into the loft, and the girl that Zaire is with just like kind of leaves. Mia and Zahir start making out, and it kind of stops. Like, she kind of stops. They go on a random ass bike ride. He has a motorcycle. They go on a random ass ride. They come back and they have sex. Now, I'll give them this. The sex scene was actually artistically very beautiful. So much melanin, so much paint. They're all like covered in oil and paint. Did her pH survive that? Probably not. Was the paint pH safe? Was it balancing for her vagine? Probably not. But visually, I was like, "Oh, this is so pretty." Like, it looked very pretty. So they end up hooking up, and she's laying down on his bed, and she looks up, and it is a painting of her face. Now remember, this is important for next time. It is a painting of her face, a beautiful painting. And I'm wondering, in situations like that in movies, do they hire somebody to um paint that, or do they just like print that out? Does somebody do it digitally and print it out? Either way, like, whoever did it did a really good job. It was like actually really fucking pretty. So then she's hooked up with this man, and here is where my frustration is, like, it goes over the roof, and I'm like, okay, I'm so done with this movie. Because how on earth do you lay up with a man that, one, he had too much going on. Like, he had too much baggage, very too much like, he's literally on trial for murdering his girlfriend, and he is not behaving as somebody would, I feel, that is on trial for murdering their girlfriend. And not only that, she's seen him become aggressive with her, verbally aggressive. Like, granted, he didn't put hands on her, but like becoming upset because somebody won't admit that they're attracted to you. Like, for me, it was giving weird. It was giving really strange to me, and I can't quite figure out why. And I think this is kind of what the problem is, like I said, with these erotic novels and movies, is that they kind of allude to women being sexually attracted to assholes. It's like the toxic masculinity shit. That's what bothers me about it. It's kind of like, oh, he was blatantly an asshole, was declared a womanizer, and that's who she chose to lay up with. Like, literally, if she would have cheated with anybody else, cheating is never good. Like, get out of your relationship and shit. Figure that shit out. And sure, I get it. It was like in the height of the moment or whatever, because she is under the impression, notice I said under the impression, that Cal has cheated on her. It's bad. Like, I just didn't like that specifically with the movie. I don't like that is the perception that people have. And I think that's why a lot of people are confused. A lot of men are confused, or either choosing to be blind, because it's like you always hear nice guys finish last, women like assholes, because for some reason, because being aggressive and being assertive somehow manages to have a correlation to how masculine a man is, and that in turn is what women like, which it's like, ugh, like, I think that's what frustrated me most about their dynamic, because there were so many reasons why she should not have gotten with him logically, and there was so much that just kind of threw me off. Like, and it's like, I get it, it was like the situation was tense, I understand, like with her husband and stuff, But it just really frustrated me. It really frustrated me because I was like, why are we still writing like that? Why are people still writing like that? And it's like, I get it on occasion, you know what I mean? And I get it in certain, I get it, not to say on occasion, I get it in a timely situation or like historically, that is how erotic novels are written. Like, and listen to me, okay? Teenage me, I was all about that shit. Like, I would read so many novels day in, day out about a guy, a stoic guy with an innocent girl or a wholesome girl, and it just that's what it was giving. Like, that's what it was giving. And I was just like, ew, like, can we have done something else? Like, I would have loved it if he, for me, didn't appear aggressive, didn't appear like an asshole, like an arrogant asshole, because it kind of, I don't know. And for her to hook up with him, it was just kind of like, okay, no. And I don't know, it could have been just like a vicinity thing. Like, okay, this is the person nearest to me. And I recently found information that my husband has cheated, which, plot twist, he fucking didn't. Or maybe he did. I don't know. There's a whole lot of twists and turns in this movie, but we'll just break it down step by step. But yes, I just kind of feel like it was dumb. Just the whole concept to me, like, I feel like concepts like those just are frustrating because it was so unrealistic, I feel, because ain't no way, like, there's no way that a woman would look at that situation, a lawyer would look at that situation and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. Like, it just kind of pissed me off. And like I said, it's like with Tyler Perry sometimes with his movies, where there's certain concepts that just rub me the wrong way. There's certain concepts that make me feel like, I don't know, it just feels toxic. It's great as far as talking points and having conversations, like, you know, how we're doing right now. But otherwise, it's like, this was supposed to be deemed as steamy. At no point was I like excited, like, ooh, steamy, you know what I mean? When you're watching like romance movies or you're reading a romance novel and it's like, ah, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain dialogues that are like, oh my god, like, so cute, oh my god. And maybe it would have reflected better in a book so we could understand what was going on through Mia's head. Like, if, you know, there was like somebody narrating and kind of explaining like, oh yes, but it's like he literally at one point told her to pack her shit up and leave. And I'm like, was that supposed to be attractive? Like, was that supposed to be attractive? Like, I don't understand. Like, was that supposed to be it for her? Like, that's what set it off for her to be like, ooh, he tells me what to do. And it's like, I feel like that's what they were kind of hinting at because she was the one making money in the relationship and was the one taking care of the bills and stuff while her husband was in rehab and while he was at home playing video games. You know what I mean? And I feel like what they were trying to say was rubbing me the wrong way. I know, I feel like there are relationships that I see where women are the breadwinner and it works for the relationship. Like, wherever you can play your part, to each their own. I don't necessarily believe that one person should be the provider for the other, like, specifically. Like, I don't necessarily believe that, oh, the man needs to do this or the man needs to do that or the woman needs to do the nurturing shit and this. Like, I don't necessarily believe in that. I think individually, whatever you want in a partner, you should find that in a partner. So if you're a woman that's like, hey, I want a man that provides financially and I want to be a stay-at-home wife and a stay-at-home mom, then you would find what suits for you because that is your personal preference. Same thing with men that are like, okay, I want a woman that, you know, helps with bills and does this and does that. And it's like, there's somebody out there for everybody. I don't think any way is the wrong way of thinking. I really think it's just a matter of preference. And I think that's what I found frustrating because I feel like it was trying to say something. Like, I feel like the concept of the movie was trying to say something. And it's like, I get it. Like, it was kind of showing, like, I guess, a breaking point, which is kind of similar to what I've seen in another Tyler Perry movie that I did a video on, which I kind of want to redo it because my thoughts and opinions have changed slightly on the, I won't say the concept because the concept remains the same for me, where it's like this buildup of, okay, the partner's doing this, this, and this, and then bam, the other person cheats. And I'm like, but with what logic? Like, I just kind of don't understand the logic behind it. But yeah, I just feel like the sexualization of toxic masculinity is getting kind of tired. Like, I'm kind of overseeing it. I'm kind of done with it. It's stupid. Like, no, we're past that, or we should be past that. But you know, to each their own. And if you're a girly that likes toxic masculinity shit, you know what I mean? Go off. I guarantee you, there's plenty of that out there for you. But yes, so after they hook up, the next morning, she goes into work, and her husband, Cal, and her sister-in-law, Charlize, are there waiting for her because apparently they have all been trying to get a hold of her. They've been blowing her phone up, and come to find out, the whole thing with the hotel and him being there was a complete misunderstanding. So apparently Cal's mom was, moved by a hotel because something about the chemo being too hard, and I wanted to go back and forth with the house, and the distance between that and the house, it was just easier for them to be there. And so basically, it was a misunderstanding. Everybody was in the same hotel room that Jimmy gave her. So he didn't have an affair. So basically, yeah, that happened. And so Mia is like feeling really guilty. She's feeling like shit. She finds this out, and she goes to break things off with Zaire. So, and I know I'm pronouncing his name like so many different ways right now. It's ridiculous. But she goes to break things off with him, and he's like, no, like you shouldn't feel some type of way. Like it's all good. It's fine. Like let's just get through the case, and we can take it from there. Mia meets up with Jimmy, and Jimmy tells her like, hey, Renee, the art gallery owner that we previously mentioned, aka a previous lover of Zaire, wants to talk to her. So she goes to meet with her, and yo, the conversation was wild as fuck because when so let me stop. Renee starts explaining how her and Zaire started hooking up. And so she basically explains the exact same way that he handled Mia. And by the exact same way he handled Mia, I'm referring to the scene where he sits her down, they start painting. What color do you feel? She paints blue. He makes her paint waves, and then next thing is that her picture is up above his bed frame, or up the wall above his bed. And so it's verbatim to what Mia said, and what, or not what Mia said, but what Mia had experienced with him, down to the painting with each other, down to their painting of their face being above his bed. So at this point, she's like, yo, like, it's no longer a special moment or something that's special or specific to her. This is now something that he does with everybody. And everybody that has been with him has said that they have been screwed over by Zaire. So she goes back to his place. He's casually just painting. She goes to the bedroom. And mind you, loft style, open floor plan. So she goes up to the bedroom, and she takes down her canvas, and there's another one behind it. And so, and it's the art gallery owner. So she's peeling this shit off. Hella girls, hella girlies, bodies on top of bodies, okay? So she's like unpeeling them until she gets to the very last painting, which is Heidi, the supposed murdered girlfriend. And not only is her painting still there, but written on top of it in red paint says, die, bitch, die. I don't know if that's what it says exactly, but like it's something on the lines of that. So she, of course, is freaking the fuck out because she has recently hooked up with this man, and it is a mess. She's like, I'm not doing this. I won't be taking this case. Like, I'm done. Like, this, like, she was like, this is evidence right here. She was like, if I tell somebody about that, your ass would be arrested. So then Zaire explains like, no, I didn't murder her. I was just upset because she made the video saying that if something bad happened to her, that it was me. And we had been vibing and everything had been going good. Our relationship was great. And then all of a sudden she makes this video incriminating me. So that's that. So she storms out. She has somebody else handle the case, or she's basically passed off the case to somebody else. And she decides to tell Cal about the affair that she has. So she wants to talk to him. They pull up to the crib. Cal's entire family is there, and there is a blowout out of this world. So Mia tells Cal, like, hey, I want to talk to you in private. And Ray is like, no, like, you can talk to him in front of us. And then Ray tells Cal, like, hey, come here. Whispers something in his ear. And then so Cal is, like, acting, like, real distant towards her. And Ray basically is like, okay, we heard you drop the case. Why is that? They're saying that you had a personal relationship or things got too personal with you and your client, so you had to drop the case. Which this bitch, because she literally could have used any other, she could have literally said, hey, I don't want to I don't want to be on this case. My brother-in-law is on this case and it's causing issues with the family. It's causing conflicts. I don't want to do it anymore. She literally could have, that was literally, the excuse was right there, but she really said that of all things. And now she doesn't even have the opportunity to talk to her husband, or he doesn't have the opportunity to hear it directly from her. He got to find out from somebody else. So there's this big blowout. And so Cal basically is freaking out. It comes out that Cal doesn't have a job and that he's been in rehab. His family is surprised by this, but yet they're just kind of like, okay, but still, bitch, you cheated. Get the fuck out. So she gets the fuck out, and Charlize chases after her, comforts her. Like I said, like Charlize, her sister-in-law, is like the one person that she had been close with this whole time. Mia goes to a resort in the DR, which coincidentally is where Zaire met Heidi, his supposed murdered girlfriend. So she's watching the news and she sees that Zaire is willing to make a deal with the DA and, try to get as least, or, not even least amount of jail time, but avoiding the death penalty. So she hears this and, she's living her best life at the resort. She's on the beach, she's running, and she's walking up. And who the fuck does she see? It's Heidi, the supposed murdered girlfriend. They're alive. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a pretty delicious plot twist. I was like, all right, cool. That's fun. Love that. So Heidi's like, no, I'm not who you think I am. It's not what you think. And so she's like, hey, like, this could clear Zaire. You're still alive. He can't go on trial for the murder of you if you're not murdered. And so Heidi sprays her with like some sort of cleaning detergent or whatever and steals her phone and runs. And so Mia goes to the police station and is trying to explain to them what's going on. She somehow manages to get a new phone. I'm not really sure how that worked. And so of all the people to call, she calls Ray and is like, hey, like, he's innocent. You need to get him out of jail. I just seen Heidi. Like, she's alive. The cops here aren't really helping. And he's like, no, this looks bad because you slept with him and now you're saying that he's innocent. And so she's like, no, but he is innocent regardless of our personal relationship. He's an innocent man. He didn't do this. And so Ray tells her, like, okay, fly back home. I'll have somebody go down there and find her and then we'll get this whole thing cleared up, but just come back home. She literally goes back to the fucking house and she's like, where's Cal? And he's like, oh, Cal's not here. He's coming back though real soon. And so the vibe of the space is kind of weird. So she notices this and gets, as she's noticing this, she gets a call from Jimmy. So Jimmy calls and is like, hey, check the email that I just sent you. So at this point, we don't know what the email is, but she checks the email and she somehow, I don't know, it's like one of those scenes in a movie where something triggers a person to do something. So Mia is like, she sees a door is cracked. She goes and looks, and it is a painting similar to hers, similar to Heidi's and all the other girls that were up on, or up above Zahir's bed that he painted. There's a painting of Charlize, her sister-in-law. So I'm trying to make sense of this. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? Why is this happening? And so she's in the kitchen with them and they're about to make dinner. And Ray's like, here, I poured you a glass of wine. And it's very adamant about her drinking this glass of wine, which is like, maybe don't drink that. Maybe there's something wrong with that. Like, read a room, bitch. But she doesn't drink it. And so basically the email that she received from Jimmy is saying that Cal and Ray's mother was never sick, never had cancer. And she tells Ray, like, hey, you need to check your email. Like, and I'm guessing he also received the same email, which was so stupid because why did she think that he did not know about that? And she did, or he did. Ray did know about it. She's like, does Cal know? And they're like, no, he doesn't know. And so Charlize is just sitting there crying. And basically, what has happened is Charlize hooked up with Zaire, but because Ray is a district attorney and plans on running for some political position, he needed to clean that up, and they essentially framed Zaire for the murder of Heidi that didn't happen. So basically he paid Heidi to make the video, and that's where we're at. And so now she has found this out. Knowing this information, they're gonna have to kill her ass. Like, there's no knowing this information and then being fine. She's not about to put an innocent man in prison for this shit. So basically, there's this whole blowout. She ends up escaping. There's like a fight. Charlize is in an awkward position too, because, or not an awkward position, but and they're like, everybody's like pissed. They're like, both of you fucked the same guy. Y'all are both fucking birds, fucking the same man, cheating on your husbands and shit. It's actually quite crazy, because like, what are the odds? What are the odds? So then she ends up escaping, and she's like, she's trying to drive, but the mom jumps on the car, on top of the car, and she like ends up crashing into a tree. The mom falls off. She starts running down the road, and who is it driving up to her? It is Cal. So she's relieved to see him. She's like, hey, your family just tried to kill me. We need to get out of here. Like, call the police, call the police. And he was like, okay. He was like, I'll call 911. He picked up the phone. He's like, 911? He's like, yes, like, there's been an accident. There's been an incident. Like, I need you to come to this address. And then so she's like, why are we driving towards the house right now? Which at this point, girl, just tuck and roll out of the fucking car. So then Cal gets a call. And Cal answers the call and is like, oh, yeah, 911. Like, why would you say it like that? Like, he said it in a weird way where I was just like, be so serious. So Mia puts it on speaker, like she like disconnects the Bluetooth or adds the Bluetooth, and it's Ray warning Cal that Mia knows everything and everything is out of the bag and that he needs to bring her back. So she hears all of this. He realizes a little too late that, you know, she can now hear all of this, and it's crazy. She still did not tuck and roll out of the fucking car. I would have tucked and rolled, but I guess that still kind of puts her in a vulnerable position because all he has to do is like back the car up. And so now he becomes super aggressive, super upset, and is like, I can't believe you cheated on me, and Ray told me to hit you to get you in line. And I was like, okay, color purple. You told him to beat me, which was crazy. But I'm digressing. So basically, yeah, he fucking punches her in the fucking face. She sees an 18-wheeler coming up, and she basically crashes into the 18-wheeler, and she unbuckles his seatbelt first. And he's like, what are you doing? I would have been like, he should have, like, if he was gonna hit her, he should have hit her to knock her ass the fuck out, if that was the plan. But he just hit her to hit her. And so she unbuckles his seatbelt, sees an 18-wheeler, grabs onto the steering wheel. He goes flying out of the car, and he's like injured. You hear police sirens. Next scene, Zahir's getting out of jail, and basically everything came out to the public. The end. And Zahir does end up trying to like talk to Mia at the end of it all, but she like doesn't, which was smart because she shouldn't have been talking to him to begin with. But you know, he's an innocent man. He's not a murderer. You know, just an asshole. That was pretty much it. I just, like I said, the only thing that I really don't like is the whole thing where she hooked up with dude. Like, I feel like that was so ridiculous to add in there, because hooking up with a client is messy. Hooking up with a client that's up for murder, like, really, like, I would need some context where it's like, oh yes, she's a sex addict, and he was saying sexy things to her, and now here they are. Like, something that made sense. But nothing about her seemed extremely promiscuous in the way where it would be like, okay, this makes sense for our character. It kind of really just didn't make sense for our character. Like, in a sense, she was very ordinary, of an ordinary wife. I mean, not ordinary, it's Kelly fucking Rowland, like, be for real. But like, in the sense that she didn't seem promiscuous, she didn't seem like she was fiending for that type of thing. Like, oh, my sex life is suffering. Like, it didn't seem like a highlight. So for me, it was already kind of random that they had hooked up. And just like I said, under the circumstance of him literally being on trial for murder, like, and I get it, you want to believe that he's innocent, you want to believe that your client is innocent, but girl, like, and the way that Zaire responded when she was like, hey, like, you know, no, I'm not attracted to you, I want to focus on the case. Like, why would you want to hook up with somebody that's not even invested in their own life? And he like literally threatened to fire her because she wouldn't admit that she found him attractive. Like the whole thing was just kind of weird to me. And the fact that they ended up hooking up was weird. And like I said, it could have been like, oh, easy. My husband cheated on me and this guy obviously wants to have sex with me, so let me go hook up with this guy. But it's like even then it's like where's our thought process here? Because it wasn't like a revenge thing, because it wasn't like a revenge thing. It was strange too, because it wasn't a revenge thing in terms of, oh, you cheated on me, bet I'm gonna get back at you. But it's like she wasn't even intending on letting her husband know. Like I think she planned on outing him, but she didn't even out him or didn't even mention anything about him being at the hotel, which is obviously something that I would have done before I even thought about hooking up with anybody. If I would have received a picture of my husband walking into a hotel with another woman, I'm calling. I'm pulling up. I got questions. I need answers. What's going on? Chances of that being a misunderstanding is like actually crazy. The dialogue was like, what the fuck? The concept of her sleeping with her client was like, what the fuck? And it just like I said, for me, whenever there are erotic novels and movies where the scenario is so ridiculously far-fetched, it's just hard for me to resonate with the characters. It's hard for me to get into it because it's like, what are we doing right now? Like, it goes against everything logical. It goes against everything that I feel to be realistic, because it's like, first of all, Kelly Rowland is playing this lawyer, and I know without a doubt that she would have had men approach her in her career. Like, it just didn't make any sense. It just did not make any sense. It just did not make any sense for me. Like I said, there are some concepts where I understand more. Like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Addicted. That kind of made a lot more sense to me as far as how the character was behaving, because she was literally a sex addict. But with characters like this, where they're not, you know what I mean? They're not promiscuous, they're just kind of there, or not kind of just there, like obviously she's a lawyer, she has other shit going on, but it's like, really, like, you're willing to sacrifice your career, you're willing to lay up with a potential murder for why? And it's like, it just was crazy to me. It just didn't make any sense. But if you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought about it, and we will see you in the next one. And I hope you have an amazing day or night or weekend or whenever I decide to post this. Okay, bye.